I think the biggest headline maker will be the Italian elections. We have the build-up ahead of it with the campaign with Berlusconi, the former prime minister, sounding quite Eurosceptic, also quite German skeptic. That might make the other side of the equation, the Germans, quite nervous. And that overall, I think, is going to have the biggest impact on markets, at least.
And I was just asking you before we came on air, between the ongoing Eurozone crisis and the US fiscal debt and the debt ceiling and the budget and the sequester, which do you think we should be most concerned about?
I think between the two, I would still say that Europe is the biggest source of risk. There's more politicians working in many different countries that don't have a responsibility for the entire system, as in the US, where politicians in the end have proven last year, 2011, well, 2 years ago now, and this year as well, that in the end they will come to a solution. Right. Whereas in Europe you have some politicians which are really jokers.
So if we've got Italy in the election, I was just writing down here. I mean, there has been quite a lot done in the Eurozone. With ESM, we've got the fiscal compact, you've got banking union, you've got the OMT. Has Europe turned the corner yet, despite what Chancellor Merkel said? Is it your gut feeling economically it's turned the corner?
I think, yes, it has. Europe has made considerable progress. Some countries are almost done with austerity. Italy is a very good example here. They've already adjusted their fiscal position, something that the US has not achieved at all with this fiscal cliff negotiations now. The Italians have already done. Next year they don't need extra austerity. That can turn around the economy. But it remains the case that Europe has done all this in a very front-loaded fashion. It has done considerable damage to the economies, and we'll have to see when these economies actually start growing again.
So when the Chancellor says in her New Year's message, you know, we're not out of the woods. Well, everybody says we're not out of the woods. But she went further, didn't she? She actually said things could be worse in 2013. Is she right?
In some countries, the risk is quite high. You mentioned Portugal, which has huge income tax increases. That's going to really hurt demand there. Spain also still has a lot to do. Even though the government is doing a good job, there's still a lot to do. Things could be worse, at least at the beginning of the year. Italy is probably going to be better.
For the Eurozone as a whole, because the last numbers we saw suggested, well, more than that, stagnant or a third year of recession. What's your gut feeling?
We think that at the beginning of the year it's still going to be weak. The winter is going to be weak, but then we'll have a gradual and strengthening recovery, which will be uneven. So countries such as Germany will be leading. Italy might be a good leader too. France will be lagging, and certainly the Iberian countries will be behind.
It's a very odd world, isn't it, out there at the moment? I can't remember a time when it's been quite as complex.
Indeed, but also very promising. We have considerable progress in Europe. Europe really is working on the fundamentals and could emerge from this crisis as a much more dynamic and maybe even more dynamic than the US place.
Good to see you. Many thanks indeed for joining us.
Thank you.